Thank you for attending this virtual presentation, and thank you very much to the conference organisers for organising such an event. In this short talk, Holocaust Commemoration from Physical Togetherness to Online Only, I want to offer some observations regarding how in this year of many 75th anniversaries related to the Holocaust and the end of World War II, we have seen events transformed into online-only provision. I will then introduce some questions that guide thinking about how we might further integrate digital technologies into Holocaust commemoration in the future. My conclusion from initial observations of 2020 events is that many institutions are still ingrained in traditional broadcast media logics, even when using digital media. And whilst these more historic logics lend themselves to the conventions of commemorative practice, now is perhaps a great opportunity to think about how we might disrupt such conventions for a digital age. These issues are more on the topic of my new blog, Digital Holocaust Memory, and I would invite those of you interested in these debates to continue the discussion further on Twitter. My handle is @Holocaust_Digi, and I've created the hashtag Commemoration Futures for this purpose. But let's start then by thinking about what is commemoration. Most of the literature agrees on some very clearly defining features. Commemoration is an event that happens at a specific time, a particular place, involves a coming together, so we have commemoration with our commemorators, to collectively remember a historical moment through performance of prescribed formalised actions and language. Not in contrast, but the definition of the other element of this talk is what is the digital logics, or are digital logics. So here we think about the computation of the discrete, intelligible information and the machinic, but also in tension with that, the experiential, continuity, affect, flow and material, the fact that digital is embedded in our embodied cultural everyday life, the fact that digital is networked, it's dispersed, it's hyperconnective, and it allows us to kind of feel at least that we're moving across time and space. It also involves an element of the on the fly. In the digital realm, everything seems to be constantly emerging, the digital itself as well. So a fleeting nature, if we think of something like Twitter, and it's far less static than perhaps of what we tend to think about as some of the criteria related to commemoration. So let's have a look at some of the events from this year. On one hand, commemorations during lockdown this year have continued with a physical coming togetherness. Pictured here are social distancing ceremonies with staff only at the Bergen-Belsen site, and this was similar at various concentration camps, and these pictures were circulated on Twitter. On the other hand, sites offered more extensive content as online platforms, and the one here from Bergen-Belsen is an incredibly extensive catalogue or archive of pre-recorded videos of talks that would have been presented at the memorial event. But then we also have what were live broadcasts on YouTube and other platforms. Here is one for the Gusen Liberation Ceremony on May the 10th, and another for the UK National Yom HaShoah commemoration. And here there was a live Twitter feed on the day as well. So some initial observations from this year. So I mentioned that there were also pre-recorded videos, but there seemed to be certainly an emphasis on live broadcasts to bring people together at a specific time still. And we saw that as kind of a key element of the definition of commemoration. We also had social distancing replaying, so we had physical movement and actions at specific memory sites. And we had the performance of prescribed formalised actions, not only in the instance of the replaying at sites, but also synchronously in this much more dispersed way across social media. So for example, the Yom HaShoah events, we have collective synchronized candle lighting where people shared their action via Twitter. So then what happens with this, if we were to introduce digital logics into commemoration? And I'm going to frame this around three problems. So the first problem is the idea of the problem of sight. Now, Jay Winter, who's written extensively about commemorative practices, argues that physical sites are only relevant to memory as long as they retain symbolic and aesthetic value. Their concrete presence can be problematic for representing memorialising absence, which is so crucial to thinking about the Holocaust, and commemorations need to engage more with below-up memory alongside top-down or institutional memory. So here are some of the questions I've started to think about here in terms of what might be a digital response to this. If sites are fragile, more at risk of losing their symbolic and aesthetic value to collective memory as time passes, what might a networked, flowing, participatory, dispersed commemorative model achieve? What happens if we detach, or at least semi-detach, from the specific geography of a site? Second problem then is the idea of togetherness. Now Durkheim describes the togetherness of physical commemorations in an incredibly poetic way, and here are his words. This is a sort of electricity is generated from their closeness and quickly launches them to an extraordinary height of exaltation. Here he's creating this sense of sacredness. The sacredness emerges for this feeling of electricity between people as they come together physically. And for Durkheim, it was the coming together in action that was central to commemoration more than the site. So how might digital commemoration transcend the specifics of both time and place? Could it allow us to not only assemble at the same time, but across times and places, opening up a new digital space for commemoration? The third problem then is the problem of formalised performance. Now, there's a presumption that digital is immaterial, which suggests it offers disembodied experiences. Yet we've seen in the candle lighting for Yom HaShoah how deeply tied the digital is to our embodied existence within the lived world. Now, Wolf Karnstein, who's written a lot about Holocaust memory and media, and particularly more recently, specifically about the digital, is critical that Holocaust memory institutions mostly use digital technology to broadcast information, rather than taking advantage of its hyperconnectivity. And whilst we see Holocaust deniers unfortunately indulge in the latter with increasingly horrific consequences. So what might a more hyperconnected form of commemorative practice look like? Could it break away from the formalised broadcast nature of traditional commemorations led from the front, which encourage us to do the same bodily action on cue? Is there a way that a more hyperconnective commemorative practice might draw on memory from below as much as memory from above? And the final query or point that I'll leave you with here is if we attempt to shape commemorative practices in ways that really integrate some of these digital logics, rather than simply use these technologies in traditional broadcast ways, this might mean decentralising the specificity of time and place and dispersing the agency of leading commemorative practices so it combines memory from below up as well as above down. If this happens, can we still call it commemoration, or are we creating a new memory phenomenon? Thank you.